Okay, so some NRL news now. Magic Round is to stay in Brisbane until 2026. The Queensland Government has confirmed they are still willing to pay the approximate 2.1 to 2.2 million Australian dollars per year, give or take a few cents off the dollar, to help host the event for 2 more years. They've confirmed it. They've signed the contracts. The concept was introduced in 2019 and it's been fantastic. I do love Magic Weekend. The Magic Round weekend is fantastic. Now, the Super League over here in the UK has had its own Magic Round since 2007. Started off in Cardiff, it's moved around a little bit. Most notably, it was very welcome in the northeast in Newcastle. Fans loved it in Newcastle. Even London Broncos fans travelling up from the southeast to Newcastle loved the event being at St James's Park. However, last year was the last year. It is now moved to Ellen Road in Leeds, and that has upset a lot of fans and raised a few eyebrows about what the RFL, Super League and IMG are doing, because St James's Park is a much bigger stadium than Ellen Road. It's much closer to the city centre of Newcastle. In fact, it is the city centre of Newcastle is St James's Park. It's slap bang in the middle of the city. A lot of amenities and transportation links. So that's hotels, restaurants, other things to do other than watch rugby league. So there's tourist sites, right slap bang in the middle of Newcastle. Ellen Road, not so much. It's not close to any major transport links. It's on the edge of the city. It's in the middle of a housing estate, I think, and it's not close to pubs, restaurants and hotels for amenities. So there's a few eyebrows being raised over here in the UK from rugby league fans about our own Magic Round being moved from Newcastle to Leeds, but there was decisions made by the RFL and IMG to do that. So the Queensland Government is happy to still pay money in to host the event, and we've seen obviously Australia reach headlines about sporting funding in regards to the Commonwealth Games and stadium infrastructure, for example in Sydney and the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne, and pulling out and saying we haven't got any money. So after 2026 we don't know if it's going to continue to stay in Brisbane or move. Now that rules out Victoria and New South Wales. They haven't got any money. The state governments in both New South Wales and Victoria basically said, we're broke, we haven't got any money, we're racked with debt. So, yes, while the New South Wales government has confirmed that they are willing to pay for the upgrade to Panther Stadium, they put money in for what is the new Parramatta Stadium, they put some money into some stadiums through a stadium fund in New South Wales, they're not willing to give money to Leichhardt. So we've seen that discussion in recent weeks and months. They haven't got $30 million spare to give to Leichhardt for upgrades, or even a fraction of that. So we know New South Wales has got a lot of money problems. We know that the debts are quite high, in the billions. Hop over the border to Melbourne and Victoria, same thing applies. They've got no spare money. They withdrew from hosting the Commonwealth Games over cost concerns. So government in Victoria and Melbourne not willing to sump up cash, which doesn't leave many options should Brisbane no longer be the host post 2026. Now, it could stay in Brisbane. The Queensland Government could be very, very happy to continue to pump over $2 million, possibly up to $3 million by if you add inflation and costs into it for the foreseeable future post 2026. But if they're not, if they decide we can't keep doing this anymore, it is starting to cost us money, there's only a few possible locations the NRL could go. They could go to Perth. Western Australia has money. They have a lot of money. Perth is a rapidly expanding city, and Perth and Western Australia has money to burn, simply because all the mining industry out and the mineral extraction in Western Australia makes Western Australia a very viable option to host Magic Round. And when rugby league does go to Perth, it does very, very, very well. State of Origin does well, and when regular club games get taken there on the taking the game on tour, so to speak, when clubs take games to Perth, crowd numbers are pretty good, and fans will wear every single jersey of every single NRL team you can think of and turn up in decent numbers. So there are facilities in Perth, they can do it, they have the money to do it, and Perth, I think, gets overlooked so what in regards to rugby league. Now, of course, expansion's on the horizon, and Perth is one of those locations that could end up getting a team. If the NRL wants to get to a 20-team league in the next decade, Perth is on their hit list. Another major city in Australia that gets seriously overlooked is Adelaide. Now, I'm not sure the South Australian government has spare cash to burn, and rugby league, while State of Origin has done well in Adelaide in the past and has had decent viewership, and Adelaide does host a lot of other major sporting events, rugby league doesn't really come on the radar when it comes to Adelaide and South Australia. The AFL has definitely got its tentacles into Adelaide, with Port Adelaide and Adelaide playing in the AFL and doing reasonably well. Rugby league doesn't do as well in Adelaide, and out of the major Australian cities, possibly has the worst transport infrastructure. And also, out of the major Australian cities, potentially the lowest average income. So Adelaide is an interesting one. It is closer to New South Wales and Queensland, so travel will potentially come into this. It's also closer to New Zealand for travel as well, so logistics. But Perth is a more romantic option, a better option, more disposable income, and the state government has more spare cash floating around, which then leaves one final city that could potentially host Magic Round, and that's in New Zealand, and that's Auckland. Auckland could definitely host a Magic Round. It's the biggest metro area in New Zealand. Highest average salaries are paid there. Most of the players who come through the rugby league system are from the Auckland or that metro area on the North Island. And there is a big hint that we are going to get at some point a second team in New Zealand, be it the 18th or 19th team, potentially the 20th team, could potentially be in Auckland. So if the Queensland Government is no longer happy to pay the money into hosting the Magic Round from 2026, there's some potential possibilities. But then again, they could renew the contract in 2026 and say we're happy to go for 2, 3, 4, 5 more years. So we'll see what happens. But at the moment, the Magic Round is to stay in Brisbane until at least 2026, and then we'll see what happens post 2026, because the local government has to sump up some cash. Now, as I say, Victoria and New South Wales don't have any spare cash at the moment. The COVID pandemic has really hit them for six. There's been some other economic issues as well, even before the COVID pandemic, which has cost a lot of money. New South Wales has obviously spent a lot of money on stadium redevelopments, on a lot of stadiums in New South Wales, where they put money into a fund. They don't have any spare cash, and the state of Victoria and Melbourne, well, they basically said we can't host the Commonwealth Games now because we also have no bloody money. So it's going to be interesting to see what the future of Magic Round looks like post 2026. But for now, it is confirmed in Brisbane. But could it end up like the Super League over here in the UK, where it moves around the cities on a rotating basis? That could be interesting to see. There's also a debate about the grand final potentially going up for tender, similar to a Super Bowl, where the cities bid to host the NRL grand final in the future. That's another potential topic on the horizon, and traditionalists don't particularly like that. But those with a more modern kind of view on things, that could potentially also happen, and could potentially also bring more money into the game. But for me, for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on Magic Round in the comment section below, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.